Hello and welcome back to Viewpoint Christian Academy for another Monday Moments where we have the opportunity to talk about all things Christian education. I'm Dr. Adam Rondo, Director and Principal of Viewpoint Christian Academy, where it is our privilege to be able to provide a biblical, individualized, mastery-based approach to education. We've been empowering parents for Christian education since 1984. Today, we're going to talk about the idea of leeks, garlic, and onions. No turning back. Stay tuned. In the book of Numbers, chapter 11, we read a story about a scenario about the Israelites, where they came to a time, one of many times, when they became dissatisfied and started to complain about the way things were. They had been slaves in Egypt. God sent Moses. He brought the people out of bondage. They crossed through the Red Sea. Pharaoh and his army were destroyed. And then they began to wander in the wilderness. They began to move around. God began to provide for their needs miraculously by raining down manna as food for them every day. But as so often we read about the people of God, and often we can see it playing out even in front of our eyes still to this day. People have still not changed in many ways. But we see that they came to a point where they were dissatisfied. They were getting sick and tired of the manna. At first it was amazing. Wow, look at that. We just walk out our doors and God has provided food. He's rained down bread for us. But after a while, they got sick and tired of it. And they wanted some other things. And we read in the book of Numbers, chapter 11, verse 5, that they said this: "We remember the fish which we did eat in Egypt freely, the cucumbers and the melons and the leeks and the onions and the garlic." And they were like, you know what? We remember that when we were slaves in Egypt, we had a good variety of food. They gave us fish, they gave us melons and cucumbers and leeks and onions and all these fruits and vegetables and some fish, and we got to eat that. And now all we have is this manna, this bread. That's all we've got. And they were getting tired of it. Now this, again, the Israelites had a terrible tendency, as we can see the people of God even to this day still do, have a terrible tendency to over and over and over again become dissatisfied with what God has done for them, with what God has provided for them, and begin to complain. We read about Miriam doing something very similar. Miriam began to complain about Moses. She said, Moses, you think you're all that and a box of chocolates, right? You think you're the leader and all that. And she began to complain. And what did God do at that point? He struck her with leprosy, right? And she had to be outside of the camp for a while and all these kind of things. And we read about it over and over again. They complained about this, they complained about that. And Moses at certain points began to be like, God, what have you done? In fact, in this particular story where they said, you know what, we remember what it was like to be a slave when we were back in that system. We had this, we had that, we had these other things. And Moses at this point is like, God, what have you done? Why have you given these people to me? And God sent quail. If you read the rest of the chapter, you see that God sent quail, gave them meat, so much quail. They ate it. They weren't thankful. They vomited it out of their noses. It's just all that, because why? They were just continually being dissatisfied. They became dissatisfied and they wanted to go back to what they had been freed from and satisfy a temporal longing that they thought Egypt could fulfill. And oftentimes as believers, we get dissatisfied with what God has provided, with what God has given us. And we remember what it was like in the world. And we remember, oh, I used to have this, I used to have that. And sometimes we become so dissatisfied that we long to go back. We shouldn't, but sometimes it does happen. We think we should go back to that old system that we were slaves to, because we think it will satisfy just the temporal longing that we have, when it really won't. Well, let's make some comparisons here and talk about this for just a minute. What's this got to do with Christian education? All right, freedom or vegetables? Freedom or vegetables? What do I mean by that? Well, the Israelites had been freed from the bondage and slavery of Egypt, and God had brought them out. And what we see is they seem to be struggling to live free, because slaves, they don't have to do anything for themselves. All they have to do is what they're told, and anything that they get is given to them. They are under the taskmaster. But now they are free, and the free have to work hard to have their needs met. The free, now in this particular case, they didn't. All they had to do was go step out the door and pick up manna. But when you're free and not everything is given to you and not everything is handed to you on a silver platter, you have to work hard to have your needs met and the needs of your families. And they started to resent the freedom that they had and wished for what they used to have. They missed fish, cucumbers, melons, leeks, and garlics. Leaving Egypt meant they couldn't have everything they had before. Okay, let's make this jump now to see freedom or vegetables. How about Christian education or public education or secular education? See, a lot of parents have been ready to make the plunge. Say, you know what? COVID showed me what's going on. I had my kids home for a while. I see the corruption that's out there. I can look at the political landscape and see all the different areas, all the different aspects of the enemy really trying to infiltrate and take over the minds and hearts of this generation. And I want my kid out of that system. I want to set them free, right? And they want their kids out of the public school system into something else, whether it's homeschool, Christian school, etc., so on and so forth. They want them free from the teachings that violate their faith. And it's almost like they have this Red Sea experience. They say, you know what? We're going to get my kid out. And they get their kid out and they put him in homeschool. Or they get their kid out and they put him in a private school. Or they get their kid out and they put him in some kind of a system that is outside of that public school setting. And then what happens? Reality begins to set in. Because you see, a lot of people, and this is a sad commentary on our society, but a lot of people just put their kids in the school system and say, here's my kid, train them, teach them, and then they're hands off. It's almost like they're slaves, and the state is their taskmaster. The public school system is running and controlling everything. They'll give their kids free lunch, they'll give their kids free education, they'll give their kids free sports programs, they'll give their kids free this, free that, all this. We'll take care of everything. You just turn the kid over to us. And but in the process, what do? They oppress their minds and their spirits. This is what is happening in the world today. And then we have the need for parents to say, okay, we're going to get them out. And it feels like a receipt, but then they start to get satisfied because they have to pay for everything. Yeah, that's right. You take your kids out of the public education system, you have to start paying. And they have to take on more responsibility. Maybe it's transportation, another freebie that the state gives. Maybe it's transportation. Maybe they have to buy curriculum. Maybe they have to make sure that the student is doing this or doing that during the day, or be involved in this way or that other way. And they start to remember, as dissatisfaction might start to set in. We remember not having to pay. We remember the free sports programs. We remember sending our child to school every day and not having to be around them all the time, having some free time. We remember this and we remember that. And this is a problem, is that when you're free and you have to work hard, sometimes you get tired. Sometimes you get discouraged. And so what I want to encourage you with today is do not trade in the high value Christian education that you have started to pursue for a vegetable salad and a fish. Don't go back for salad. Don't go back to that slavery position in public education for some salad. Use this opportunity and stick with it. So the idea is, even though you might remember how easy it was to let the state run the show, I want to encourage you, no turning back. You have crossed the Red Sea. Your child is free, and you are now in control of their education. Don't quit. Don't turn back. Don't give up. Keep at it. Make it work. Go with it. Stay with it. Act like you're free. Act like you're ready to work hard. Don't think and act like a slave. Don't let the taskmaster tell you what to do. Work hard. Support your family. Give them the best. God is with you. God will reward you. But in the process, I want to encourage you. We need, as a body of Christ, just to encourage one another in this area. Pastors, you need to preach about it. You need to stand up in the pulpit and say, this is what God has called you to do, Mom and Dad. This is God's will for your family's life. Encourage them. Preach on it. Say, look, we can come alongside you. We can encourage you. We can pray with you. We can support you. Work together as a family. Church body, support one another and make this a reality that can work. The new school year is going to start, and everybody's fresh and ready to go. But by the time October rolls around, by the time November rolls around, you've been at it for a while, start to remember what life was like. Remember, Don't let the devil, listen, don't let the devil give you selective amnesia, okay? Don't let the devil give you selective amnesia. You need to remember everything. Don't just remember the parts that you long for. Remember the whole thing. Remember the slavery and the oppression. Remember the lies and the ungodly environment that your children are being subjected to in the public school system. You say, wow, you just really beat up the public school system. Yeah, I know. I've been doing this for a long time, and I've seen the reality, and I've seen all the teachings, and I've understood these things. It is a good equivalent. Yes, I know, okay, there's good teachers, fine. There's even Christian, godly teachers, but they're in a system that is oppressing the spirits and the minds of students. Spiritually, so much so. Don't let the devil give you selective amnesia. Don't remember fondly the unimportant things. Sports are not going to be something... Listen, most students, a very small percentage, are going to spend the rest of their lives as professional sports players, athletes. It's just such a small percentage. Most likely your child will not be a professional athlete, but there is a 1 out of 100% chance that they're going to stand before God someday and be prepared, and they were going to have to be prepared to enter eternity. So mom and dad, remember what's most important. Remember the important things. Don't remember fondly the unimportant things about secular education over the eternal and most important elements. Would you go back to slavery for a salad? Then don't go back to secular education for secondary things. I love what C.S. Lewis said. He said, if you put first things first, you also get second things. But if you put second things first, you lose both first and second things. Just like Jesus said, Matthew chapter 6, verse 33. But seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and then all these things, they'll be added unto you. Put first things first. No turning back. Don't go back to that system of oppression, spiritual oppression and slavery. Don't do it. Be determined. Put your hand to the plow and go forward. Don't look back. As Jesus, don't look back. No turning back. Hey, God bless you. I hope this has been a blessing to you. I hope something that's been said here has been a blessing and an inspiration to you. We are here to help. Viewpoint Christian Academy wants to help you in any way that we possibly can. Take care. God bless. Hey, if you like this, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe, like, follow us, do all that good stuff. I hope it blesses you. Take care.